All right, so we're gonna, here's another one. This is a really important topic, gratitude. It's easy to look around in our country and see how many people are not grateful. They aren't thankful for what they have, for who God is, for what He's done in their life. Perhaps they don't know Him, but even for Christians, it's so much easier to focus on what's going wrong, what's bad, what's difficult, what's challenging, rather than the good things that God has done. Perhaps maybe this is more of an issue for realists or pessimists rather than the optimists, but I have found now, perhaps maybe some of you do as well, it's easier to look back on my life with gratitude for the difficult things that happened if it was long ago, not if it happened yesterday or even this afternoon. Sometimes it's really hard to weigh the current good against the current bad. The current bad is just always going to be a bigger thing in our mind, a bigger place in our heart, and it's hard to be grateful when I'm bothered by everything that is so difficult. And, truth be told, there's a lot of difficult and challenging things out there. And the sad thing is unfortunately, bad things sometimes are more memorable than the good. But amazing things tend to be more memorable than all, like a good vacation, or a great memory with a loved one, or something like that. But the problem is that those are usually few and far between. And it's so easy to forget the amazing things that God has done. And for me, I tend to remember the really difficult and challenging things. We all remember, a car accident, a major injury, a time that you felt betrayed, when your loved one left you. Because our mind easily goes to those things, because our mind is always ruminating and trying to solve things. When you solve things, usually means they've gone well, and so your brain is easier. It's easier for your brain to release those things. But you tend to focus on things that were more difficult because usually they're unsolved. I just want to read this. We're probably familiar with this. Philippians 4:11-13. Not that I am speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. We all know that last familiar tagline. And it's just this idea of giving thanks, of being grateful. It's especially a time to look at what God has done in our lives, and especially to celebrate them. But unfortunately, usually we focus on the bad. We focus on the trying, the difficult. I think God is impressing on me the activity that I tend to overlook, and perhaps on you too. See, we need to recognize that God has a hand in our life and He's doing something great. Personally, I need to decide to recognize, to see God's hand in my life. I need to admit that God is in my midst and He's doing things that can be recognized and can be seen and attributed to Him. And when I don't, I fail to be grateful. I'm ungrateful. And it's such an easy thing to do, to live circumstantially, to not recognize God's hand, to not consider God's hand, and always be wondering, therefore, if God's hand is even around. This tends to also mean why our worship is poor. We can't enter into the sanctuary with praise and thanksgiving on our lips because we're like, well, life is hard. Did God even see what happened this week? Did God see what happened just now? Of course He sees. But unless it's our practice of recognizing His hand in the good, being grateful people, even worship can be hard. And unfortunately for us, this is a vicious cycle. The less we recognize God's hand, the less we're grateful to Him, and the easier it is for bitterness to set in, and it's a cycle. It can be hard to come back from that if we're always looking at what's wrong, looking at what's weighing us down. And this isn't just about positive thinking, it's about recognizing God's actual working hand in our midst, instead of viewing it without faith, like God is not there. So I think God has been speaking to me, impressing on me. He's inviting me to enjoy Him again. And that means to look for Him. Where is he working? What is he doing? How has he blessed me? And then to see him, because God has blessed me with so much, my wife, my kids, and God's worth celebrating. My family is worth celebrating. The blessings that I have, the job that I have, the home that I have. Whatever it is, whatever you have, there are things that you can thank God for. It's just we tend to not focus on those things. Perhaps they hurt, perhaps they bring pain. But there is something that you can be thankful for. See, it really comes back to, I think, realignment. We need to realign ourselves with the good things that God has done. See, I need to choose to celebrate my son. I need to choose to celebrate my wife. Sometimes they're difficult to do that. Sometimes those relationships are hard, whatever it might be. And that's why gratitude is a realignment. It's not just how I feel at the moment, it's where I should be looking. And if I'm looking in the correct place, then I can find gratitude. And I think this is another reason why Paul calls us here to renew our minds over in Romans. Right? In my messes, in my times, I need to renew my mind. Because God has graciously allowed me to be able to lift my head and say that he is good. He's allowed me to look at what's beyond just in my immediate vicinity. I don't have to live circumstantially. And that alone is a great and amazing thing. See, this verse is not about just saying, I can do all things through God who strengthens me. Like, it's not just like proclaiming how awesome I am and how able I am to accomplish things and I just get things done. It's not about being a go-getter. It's not about being a Christian go-getter. It's not about, God is now with me, therefore I don't have any adversity. It's rather recognizing that because God is with me, the whole verse is about contentment. Because God is with me, I can be content. Then I can experience thankfulness. I can be grateful. And grateful people are happy people. Grateful people have smiles. Grateful people are not continually disappointed, are not always looking at what's wrong, and they're not bitter. So one way out of that pit of bitterness, of anger, of resentment is learning to be grateful. And it can be difficult, but it is so worth it. And that's what Paul is saying. In any and every circumstance, I have learned this truth. I can be content, and I can be grateful and thankful for God, because it's through his strength and not my own. So, raise your head. Say God is good. Look for where he is working. Look for where he is. Look beyond the simple day-to-day and find the time to celebrate him, because through God, through his strength, we can find that contentment. So learn to be grateful, man, and your life will be so much better. So thanks. We'll have more later. Have a blessed day.